quorum, and it's 2:04. I think Ms. Holman is on her way, but let's go ahead and get started. We'll go ahead and call the meeting of Odessa Development Corporation to order. Could I please get a volunteer to give our invocation? Thank you, Mr. Robinson.
Dear Father, thank you for bringing us together one time today. Thank you for giving us the blessings that we can share with others through the way of economic development and to enhance the city of Odessa and its people. Thank you for giving us this venue to look after the welfare of the people of Odessa and return to them for the work they have given. Look after all the sick and injured, send healing angels to look after them, and guide us through all the ventures that we take in this path. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, sir. Would you stand with me for the pledges?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. All right. If we could, I'm going to invite the working girl's friend and the housewife's dream, Mr. Mickey Navarrete, to come on down. That don't know, we've got a little change in the guard a little bit, and Mr. Navarrete is leaving us, but we have a small token of our appreciation for Mickey's service to the Odessa Development Corporation. Your knowledge and your input and your sometimes wanted and unwanted opinions have been a big benefit to us, and we just want you to know how much we appreciate you, and thank you for your time, and thank you for your dedication to our city and our citizens. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mickey.
Thank you, Mickey.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Mickey.
Hey, good luck, sir.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate y'all very much.
Thank you, Mickey. Well, what goes along with that is, I don't know if we should congratulate him or pray for him, but our newest member of the board is Tim Harry, and we're looking forward to working with Tim, and the knowledge and experience that he brings to the table, I think, will be very, very valuable. So welcome to the team. Thank you. Has everyone had an opportunity to take a look at the minutes for the February 15th meeting?
You know, Chris, I got one item really that I think should be added to the minutes when we're talking about the action that we took for the grant associated with the ICA development. I think the minutes ought to include why we did that. There's really not much in there. Why did we make the decision to extend the grant? Just briefly, and I don't mind getting with Kathy and helping her with the verbiage in this, but if you think about the large development that includes commercial, industrial, workforce housing, includes retail as well, the lion's share of our grant is associated with a road that helps the circulation, and it's a very small piece of what is going to ultimately be that circulatory road. The vast majority of it ICA is going to be developing. And then the drainage, which has to be done in order to facilitate all of that huge development in there. So I think I think it's important that the public understands not only what do we do, but why we do it. So if you
I would agree, because we spent quite a bit of time talking about that, really, what we were doing in this area and open up that whole 1,500 acres there really of development. So I think that'd be fantastic. And if you don't mind doing that, getting with Kathy, I think that'd be great.
With that, I'd make a motion, with that amendment to be included, I'd make a motion to approve the minutes.
I second it.
With a motion and a second, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. All right, contractors' reports. Mr. Mansky.
Good afternoon. This is all, I'll talk loud. I will start, when you're finding your January financials, on the EDD, portion in your packet, following our report. Also wanted to mention, I had reached out, both Tracy and I had reached out to Nacero and 1.5. We were hoping to have them here today. They had scheduling conflicts on both ends. Matter of fact, with 1.5, we approached 2 different people about coming here, and I guess that particular department of theirs had something going on this week that they could not make it. Both Nacero and 1.5 have April and May dates, at least right now, the dates that we normally meet on in front of them, and they're gonna let us know hopefully sooner than later, that there'll be one of those meetings to make a report. And so we're looking forward to that. I wanted to mention Workforce Summit. There actually is some follow-up going on. We had a meeting Monday morning at 8:30, a Zoom call, which is always great to have a meeting like that Monday morning following spring break.
Yeah.
Everybody was wide awake and excited. I know Renee and Christy and Tracy and Kathy and Lindsay and among others were all part of that meeting. It's part of it, we're calling it Project Cohort, and it's on the working with new Americans on developing a pathway to working folks that are already here that maybe because of they may not be legal or what have you, they're unable to land a job in developing a pathway. We've actually brought in LULAC on the process. Coincidentally, at a meeting, ran into a lady who is a district, I don't know if she's district director, district chairperson, or what have you. Teresa Servan, she's stepped in with another gentleman from Houston who's part of LULAC, and they've offered right off the bat some good information on how to move forward with that process. And so I just wanted to, I mentioned that because we're in our infancy stage, but I didn't want anybody to think that we had that meeting back on January 18th. I decided to skip it, and then we've done nothing since. There have actually been multiple meetings, but as you can tell, this is a very complex issue, and we're trying to determine what direction is going to be most beneficial as far as bringing our assets to the table.
So who else are you working with on that whole idea of taking these new immigrants, or whatever we want to call them these days, but moving them into the workforce? I mean, who else are we working with on that?
Well, right now, Preston, who's actually been in part of the meetings, Workforce Solutions, Willie and Gail, they've been active. Odessa College, Dr. Price, and Christy Pruitt. We have other names we're going to reach out to. We know we need to get somebody from UTPB, also the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Chris wasn't able to attend our last meeting, but Chris Walker's been approached with the Black Chamber of Commerce. So we're looking for any and all help. And if you want to be a part of it, please let me know. At some point, I'm sure there's going to be some different directions. There may be an emphasis over here with the group on housing. There may be something over here. Right now, this was kind of the low-hanging fruit because there was a grant involved, and we applied for it and actually were able to receive it. And so we're looking at this process with the new Americans. There's been a lot of talk about ESL, which we talked about in our retreat and at the summit. Translators, possibly. How do we involve that with there was a construction company that's working on a big project here currently, and they said they have an inability right now. They're not set up to bring in non-speaking employees, non-English speaking, employees, and how can we address that issue? And so the idea came up, well, what if maybe there was a translator that scheduled with different companies? Some of the biggest issues with regards to translation is safety, because that's obviously very important to most every organization out there. Safety on the work site and in that environment. But yeah, that's
Do we have any idea how many, has there been a survey or anything done? How many of those people that would fit into that category that we actually have in our area? Do we have any ideas to
We don't have a
scope?
local one yet, we're working on that. We've seen some numbers nationally. Sat in on a meeting 2 weeks ago with the IMC, International Immigration Council, and they looked at it more from a entire country standpoint and everything, but we're developing contacts every day, so hopefully we can get some of that information. So
I'd like to be kept, if you would kind of keep me in the loop on that. I'm kind of really interested in that.
okay.
I think I do. I would also say too, you know, and I've kind of been talking to my staff about the, you know, I think we need ESL, but I also think we need SSL classes for us English speakers that need to learn to speak Spanish.
Oh, I agree. And I can tell you a year ago, I had a different thought process on that. But then after doing some research and things, as we've gotten more involved in this, realized we're one of the few countries where like, we only have one language. And that, you know, most of your other countries out there have multiple languages. People depending, you know, China, they've got a lot. And so, you know, maybe it needs to go both ways.
Yeah, I would love to see something developed where we could actually kind of you know, Spanish for business, you know, kind of things where we can, you know, have a very accelerated program to teach us gringos how to speak Spanish in a way that we can communicate with our workers, with our customers, that we can't do now.
Yeah.
With no age limit.
Where did that come from?
Came from a 72-year-old.
So, that's like a mic drop. Any other questions on that particular one? And like I said, we any and all input, any ideas, suggestions, you know, please feel free to email, call, let us know. Some highlights out of our packet. I won't go through the whole deal again. You have it there in front of you unless you have any specific questions. Still working with Project Molecule. That's the ancillary project to 1.5. It's a $80 million project. Working on 312 agreements with taxing entities. They were up for one with one of the entities a couple of weeks ago. We were able to get them to pull it from the agenda to have further discussion. Because the entity wanted to make some changes that maybe the company wasn't 100% comfortable with. We had a couple of conference calls since then. I think we can work things out and move forward with that. That's a competitive project. When you look out there at 1.5, they are going to put a DAC in another county, and it's on the Gulf Coast. And one of those, either us or that other county, are going to get the lion's share of the investment. And so any and all of the infrastructure, if it can serve both spots, if we can get that here, benefits us. And that was one of the things we really had to emphasize in one of our meetings. Because I think, you know, there's the thought out there that a lot of these projects, well, they were going to come anyways. And then are they going to expand here or expand somewhere else? And so we're doing everything we can to make sure the lion's share of that investment occurs here in Ector County. And I know we've tossed around some of the numbers, so I know y'all agree we want those numbers here. With that, you'll see we had a good month on BRD. Can answer any questions. We did also put, sometimes we will get a direct contact from like a board member, and they will say, hey, I got a phone call from so-and-so, can you reach out to them? On those, we will specifically, and it's typically multiple replies. It only looks like maybe one attempt, but some of those we will put in there, email, no response, phone call, voicemail, no response. We're letting you know that people that you may have sent to us, we've reached out to them, and we will continue to do so, hopefully to hear back from them. But we do list those just to let you know that we've reached out to people that might have come from member of the city council, ODC board, what have you. And if you have any questions on the BRNE, be happy to look at that. Another item which I actually come bearing gifts. Coming up is the UTPB State of the University, and they sent invites because y'all have, the ODC has supported UTPB in the past. And so, let me see here. Melanie, and I cannot be there that day. I'm gonna be at the Industrial Asset Management Conference, but I am going to hand over my invite to our newest board member.
Woohoo.
With no charge or strings attached. So, and I've got one here, I'll get to Dr. Kerr. But that's coming up, April
Poor
10th.
Larry. Come on, Melvin.
I will give y'all some.
Seven
Starts
thirty in
at
the morning.
7:30 in the morning.
We had a healthy
And
discussion.
your concern for that is?
We had a healthy discussion this morning at the Motran meeting that it started at 8:30, and that was already too early.
And I will make notice to you, so you know, you need to RSVP by April 3rd. So, please, if you're interested in that, I encourage you to do so. And I've got another deal. Each year, the chamber puts out their annual report, and we emphasize we are ODC, but we are part of the chamber. And you notice we're in this, in the last 2 pages here. We'll talk about economic development, and it begins with Odessa Development Corporation. But that's a nice little publication. They don't print up a lot of them because they put this online, but it highlights also their tourism and then chamber operations. Very summarized publication. I don't know if y'all have seen that before, but I thought I'd bring you a copy. I'll give you one if you promise you're gonna read it.
Well, just hold on to it.
So I thought I'd share that, you know. And that's really, you'll see our social media, after that, some of the business, meetings we've had, partnerships and things around town that we've participated in. I won't go ad nauseam unless you looked at it and have a question about that. I'll be happy to answer it. Any other questions, concerns? I will mention, and I know we had a good showing, the previous month was, I feel very good for ODC and ODC leadership as far as, obviously with Bass Pro Shop, followed up by, Liberty. And Liberty seems very, very happy. The response we've received from them about that whole event, they were extremely pleased with. And so, it was fun to be out there and enjoy that. That was a big success. So hopefully we can have more months like that moving forward. Any questions, concerns?
Thank
Thank
you.
y'all.
Thanks, Tom.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Do I? Oh, my bad, I didn't write it, my bad. Is it both y'all, right? Okay, my apologies, Lindsay and Tracy are now certified business retention and expansion coordinators.
We got certificates.
So,
Wow.
they enrolled in that program with our emphasis on BR&E. They joined a new group, actually the office did, it was fairly inexpensive. And they went through a special program to get that certification. They completed it 2 weeks ago, maybe, 2 or 3. So, okay.
That's excellent.
My bad, I didn't have that.
Yeah, but now you're gonna have to change the way you talk about them. Up to now, anytime you talk about Lindsay or Tracy, you say they're certifiable. Well, now they're certified.
I'm gonna have to totally change the way I talk about it. Thank y'all.
Thanks, Tom. Okay, current media partners, Miss Christie.
I've got a little show and tell today. We have some new creative, so kind of hit the high points on our report. For Mr. Harry, we've done a target industry analysis. We spent about the last 4 months kind of going through another third party and doing that. The ad committee and the economic development staff saw the overview of that yesterday. I have received a draft version of the 95-page report. I got way more information out of it than I expected. A lot of the questions that we had yesterday, I actually have access to, so I'm just having to pull those in and get it in a format that is complete so that we can get that to the board. So we're still digging into into it. I think it had a lot of good information. There are a few things that we could start on pretty quickly, I think, on the marketing side, and then there are a few things that we're gonna have to look into to get a few more specifics. But very good information. I think, Jeff was there yesterday, as were the entire staff, but I mean, I think it's a good start. We just need to dig into it a little bit more before we.
Lots and lots of data there.
Lots and lots of data. There's a couple data points that we are questioning, just having seen different things with the census and everything. We just wanna make sure that they pulled the right things before we, put that in and work from it. So more to come on that, just wanted to mention that. A couple of other things as a result of the recent announcements. I think we have some opportunities in the PR realm and in the publication realm. We've got some new creative to show you with new ads that we're looking at. They're an extension of what we've already created, but we're gonna show you those. And I think that there are some places we're working on a calendar to place those pretty strategically in the right issues that have the right editorial content, so that we'll hopefully get some write-ups on some of the good things that are going on as well. And I think all of this is gonna tie into some of those target industries that we're going to also look at the publications that are hitting those industries. And even more value in those, I think, are their online editions that we can share when those things come out. So a couple of things there that I just wanted to mention. There is a new workforce article on the website as of Sunday, I believe, that kind of recaps the summit and some of the things like that. We did update the creative on the digital to include more of the workforce summit, more of the videos. We're also working Liberty and the groundbreaking into that. We took video of all those as well. But all of those still remain at the lower budget. We're still tracking pretty far under our budget right now, knowing that we have a lot of data to go through, that we're gonna be giving you some more things. So with that being said, I just wanted to show a couple of the ads.
Excellent.
Is it okay to take this out? Can't remember the.
Super stereo.
I'm not seeing it. I am a Mac person, so if you guys see anything that I'm not seeing on the.
I think you
Yeah,
had
you
it.
just moved it out of the way.
You closed it, yeah.
Yeah.
Did I?
Click and close it. It just moved it down to the bottom.
Click on the little folder at the very bottom, Christie, right about the
Yep.
middle of the
Over
bottom.
to your left.
Up,
You gotta
up,
forgive Christie
up.
too, she's got new glasses, so.
Dude, thank you. I was trying to read things yesterday, it didn't work too well.
Right there, yeah.
Okay, sorry, y'all.
Yep,
There you go.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Macintosh since 1996 does not help me on these, I'm sorry. Okay. And I'm gonna run through these quickly. If that's okay, I'll just keep it there and then we'll go through it. Right here, maybe?
It's gonna move your pages around. Your scroll bar is right next to that.
There it goes, okay, so just listen. So a couple of the things, here are a couple of the ads that are running right now. In the publications, we showed you these guys, a year ago, but a lot of the ads that you'll see that are running currently, Abilene, I think, has probably done the best job. They've kind of come from the really busy ads and they've done a little bit more, but one thing that came out of ad committee is that we're gonna place money and spend money in these publications. I mean, cause they're not inexpensive. We wanna make sure what we have stands out, and pretty much everything you see, there's a lot of copy, they're very busy, they all say the same thing. And so the task was, how do we stand out from this? We're gonna place something, how do we stand out? A couple of others, Tomball, a lot of them highlight projects. Lubbock, one thing I like that Lubbock does is that they highlight their wins.
Mm-hmm.
But they all look different. And I don't like that, because I don't know that it's always associated with Lubbock. So I think they have the right idea, but that's just something I wanted to point out. This is what everything is looking like. Ours had the new look last year with only Odessa. We want to keep that. We're not going away from that, but looking at ways to kind of expand upon it. So we have 3 that we're going to show you, 3 different campaigns. And after we all talked yesterday, our thought process to this is to take these, use it for an extended period of time. So we'll take one of these at a time. We're still trying to figure out which one we're gonna start with, so if there's any feedback from the board, we'd love to have that. But these all kind of play off of each other. So the first one, we've been using the O quite a bit in our graphics. So this has an O as one of the main graphics. And in these, pretty photo of the area. And then this one in particular, the headline, "The sky is bigger out here. Maybe that's why businesses reach greater heights." The copy in all of these supported, I'm not gonna take the time to read that to everybody, but I'll point out a few things, but this is just one. This one, again, a stock image where we would do something different, but we also wanna talk about, while we wanna play off the fact that we are known for oil, we also wanna talk about it's not just oil. So some, again, catchy headlines. You don't have to be in oil to strike it rich here, and then to back that up. This photo we would probably take, talking about some kind of technology, working in people, into that as well. And then location. So a lot of things that we did here, even from the target industry survey, our location is very, very important when people are looking, especially from the outside. So this was one where we just highlight location. Then just to show how we would pull this into social. This one, we would do these in video. Video performs better for the most part than static. So we would probably start on that sunburst, and then you would pull out to see the full image. And this one, you'll love our climate, weather-wise and business-wise. And again, the copy supports that. So that is campaign number 1. Number 2 also plays off the O, just smaller, and it's playing off of very big headlines. So one thing that we talked about, you don't see a lot of white space, you don't see a lot of room in those other ads. So we wanted to have something where the headline was the main focus and then would draw you in. And on all of these, the call to action on this, we would have a QR code that goes to a V card or something where they can actually email, contact, something that is very specific. So a couple things here. These are just the simple versions. This one thing about the copywriter on this, it's a man that I've worked with when I started my career. He's written for Chick-fil-A. He's written for Taco Cabana. He's freelance now and was doing this. I pushed back on this one a little bit because I feel like we get very much into that Western thing, and I tend to shy away from that. And he said, that's great, but the rest of us don't. You know, he's sitting in Dallas, and he said, don't count that out. So I kept it in here. We included it. I do like having an outside opinion for these, but Cowboys came here for a better life. Now businesses do, kind of playing off that vintage, heritage, things like that. This one would be focused more on health. So one of the reasons this came about, I mean, we still do have, we have a very, very good concentration of healthcare facilities in Odessa. And so this is something where we might want to highlight this. This would be specific to a publication that was dedicated to healthcare or something like that. It wouldn't run on its own. But move here for the health of your company and your employees, when that's something that they're looking for. And then this one. So this is, again, something I would shy away from. I mean, we've talked about the meteor. I've been here a long time. I've never used it in an ad, and really, I think it's something we all hear about. But one thing for businesses, not having natural disasters to deal with is a big deal. So finding a way to say that in a clever way, I think is something that that would cause them to look into doing something more. So this one, no mudslides, hurricanes, or floods to disrupt your business. But in full disclosure, there was a meteor strike 63,500 years ago.
I really like that.
So there's
This is my favorite.
and I'll read the copy I can't on the bottom. In Odessa, your business won't have to stop by natural disasters, and your employees will enjoy sunny days 330 days a year. So you can operate 365 days a year, at least until the next strike from outer space. Only Odessa knows. So again, trying to be different,
Like
trying to
that.
be a little clever and funny in this. So I like this one as well. Then the way we would use that in social, and I would actually like to see this as a print ad. Again, you kind of start in close where you have somebody moving that implies energy and movement. You pull out in that video to see the little O and the big headline, "Our land isn't all that's full of energy." And I like that headline as well. I think that could work well.
That's good. Can your video be what's going on inside the O with like a vector mask kind of deal where your movement's going in there and you're pulling back out as he's moving
Oh,
across?
yeah, we could do that.
That'd look awesome.
Yeah, I think that would be really fun. Yes, yes. Campaign 3, same type thing, where we have a lot of negative space. We were working on these really strong headlines. The photos here we would take, or we would probably get different ones, so just know that when you see them. But again, just focusing on really nice photography and headlines, but also doing the same thing where you have the implied white space. This one, focusing on rail, over 140 years later, the railway still brings business here. And I think this is a chance to talk about where we came from, that we're the midpoint between Fort Worth and El Paso, and also focus on rail, because I know that that's something that a lot of people are looking for. So this one, wherever this would be, doesn't have to be a golf course, we just need a nice quality of life. Life moves slower, business moves faster. And this is one, again, just talking about quality of life, lifestyle here, but business that we're responsive. And then this one, this photo, obviously not taken in Odessa, we will fix that one, but businesses grow better in our climate. And again, keeping only Odessa. And then again, as an outsider, I feel like one thing that I tend to shy away from is, Friday Night Lights, because we all live it, we've all been here. However, we talked about this yesterday, if you're sitting on a plane, if someone doesn't know where Odessa is, it's the first thing that people say. So I liked that this was a nod to it without putting football helmets, without putting colors. Basically, you talk a lot about the community, and you, again, this would be a video where you'd start with the football lights, you pull out to see, build a future as bright as our Friday night. So those are just the basic concepts, and again, we kind of went into this with the thought of we're gonna pick one of these, build it out, but I think that this is something that we're gonna look at a full calendar to start with one design and then move into some of the others. So if anyone, if there's any feedback on where we should start on that, I think we all kind of left with a couple that we liked best, but thought that they would all work well, so.
I think it was interesting, the target industry survey that we started looking at, that location became a major focal point. And it wasn't so much, oh, we're halfway between here and there, but it was this whole idea as we see these extreme weather events happening more and more often in key places, and it's shutting down businesses for weeks or months. Companies are really starting to take that into their consideration as to, and so other than the occasional hailstorm and a lot of wind, we don't really have things that shut business down. We don't have floods, we don't have fires, we don't have earthquakes, we don't have tornadoes. And these are things that companies are starting to really look at when they're considering locations.
For sure. Yeah, the first headline had wildfires, but we're working on them, obviously, timing, so I think that those, but you're right, I think that was one of the reasons. And again, one of the reasons I kind of wanted somebody from the outside to say, what do you think? What do you think when you look at us? When you see all this, what do you see? Any questions or thoughts?
I like the simplicity.
Great. I do too. And I do think the committee kind of, when we started talking about publications, the whole thing was, we're not opposed to running, but if we're gonna do it, let's not look like everybody else. And I think that was great direction.
Like, the message is clear, the message, it's well done.
Thank you. Okay, I can send out, if anybody has anything, always welcome to email me, or, but the next ones you start seeing will be along these lines. And that's about it. Anything else on the rest of our stuff?
Excellent. Any other questions for Christie?
I think just as a last comment too, one of the things that we've kind of tasked Christie and her team with is just kind of increasing the local public awareness of ODC, so that people understand where these tax dollars are being spent. I mean, David made a great point of in the minutes of letting people understand why we did that project and what it means beyond just building a road or putting in some infrastructure. And I think that's another key element that we're really trying to do, increasing the frequency of press releases. We've talked about, signage for some of the projects that we're involved in, so that people know, hey, this project was brought to you by ODC, things like that, because I think so many people in our community don't have a clue who ODC is, what we're doing.
And we are changing the content on that all the time, but anytime there's something that comes up, put it on our radar. We'll make sure we get it out there. But I do think with the recent announcements, we have a good opportunity right now to kind of, tie into that and take advantage of it to make sure that people are seeing and associating it with ODC.
Excellent. Any other questions?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Christie. Okay. Now, I know the Black Chamber of Commerce had their report in the packet. Any discussion on anything there? Okay. And then UTPB Small Business Development Center, they had a really good month. If you guys noticed their counseling hours and FTEs and capital investment was all real good, but any discussion?
Yeah, if you're not signed up for their email list, I'd encourage everybody to do that. It's just, I know it's another email you get, but it's really interesting to see all the stuff that they're doing.
Mhm.
I mean, they're doing a lot of training.
Motran, again, was in the packet. Any discussion? Okay. Which brings us to City Administrative Support and Financials, Ms. Kaylee Banda. Come on down.
It's the highlight of my day.
So today, we'll be going over the first quarter of our fiscal year, so October, November, December. You can just set that first page aside for now. It's just the, sales tax report that you guys have been looking at monthly.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
On the March sales tax, would that be for January?
Yes, it's 2 months,
2 months, okay.
and yes, retro. Okay, so if you'll flip to the October 2023 balance sheet. Total assets for this month was $80,835,252. Of course, most of that's going to be the pools that we have. One thing that I will say here is on the next month, you're going to see a due from general fund line item that is not here in October. October was the last month that we had our senior accountant before he left, so he was the one doing the journal entries every month to basically transfer the sales tax to ODC's tax pool. Once he left, it took our accounting team a little while to figure out that journal entry and how it needed to be done. So in the next couple months, you'll see a due to general fund where we were notating the revenue, but it hadn't been transferred to tax pool yet. So that's not yet on this one, but you will see that on the next one. If you flip to the next page in the October report, you'll see monthly revenues of $1,541,177. Not too much activity in the expenditure categories. Hold on, I'm sorry. Yes, except for, of course, the contracted services. Those were the biggest ones that were paid out. A little bit of marketing expenditures in this month, not too much. And then the fund balance for the year to date is $80,835,252. So on the next page, we did not have any change in the reserve fund, so in the project, so we can just kind of skip over that for now. I do want to notate first, though, so there's a couple of projects on here in the long term and short term that have expirations of 2022, 2023. So the ones that are there obviously have not been fully paid out yet, and I think that is because I know there were some issues with the timeliness of the compliance reports for a little while, so some of the payments were delayed. So that's probably why some of those are showing as quote unquote expired, even though we still have some monies to pay out for them.
Do we know the status of the compliance reports on those?
Off the top of my head, no, I don't. I know that Whitley Penn was working with UTPB. They just finished Apergy's not too long ago. I'm not sure about Glaciers and Select, so I can find out where those are. We'll skip over the notes to the financial statements and look at the investment summary. The beginning balance in October was $77,378,936. And then the ending balance was $78,934,212. So you can flip to the next couple pages, which are just the detailed beginning of month and end of month. One thing I do want to correct on here is the West Texas National Bank CD. That renewed in September, and so the new interest rate is 3.96. So we're doing quite a bit better. There's a pretty notable change in the interest that we're receiving monthly, so that's exciting. And then I'm looking forward to that First Bank and Trust one coming due at the end of April, because we're probably going to be able to get a higher interest rate than that before, you know, the Fed starts lowering rates potentially.
How long is our maturity on the new West Texas National?
It's a 12-month.
12 month?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I haven't received any communication on that First Bank and Trust yet. I know David had asked if we get renewal notices. I haven't received one yet, so probably a phone call is needed just to see what their plan of action is on that one. So we will continue.
What about those municipals, Kaylee, that were coming up in February? Did
Mhm.
those mature and did those go to cash? Did we move
Yes.
that to a tax pool or?
Yes, so those mature and they just go to cash, so we'll take a look here in a little bit at some different things that we can do with those monies, as we discussed in a previous meeting. So if you'll flip to November, on the balance sheet, this is where you'll see that due from general fund. So I will also say that these have now been cleared. As of last week, everything that was owed, quote unquote, to you guys has been transferred over, and everything has been journaled as needed. So those will be cleared starting in February's balance sheet. So we were behind November, December, and January on making those transfers, but they're all tucked away and good to go. So total assets as of end of November, $82,275,491. We'll just flip to second page there. Monthly revenues, $1,567,158. Down in the expenditures, there is a line item that says contingencies that you'll see for $9,000. I did take a look into that just to see what it was. It's kind of a vague line item. So 1,000 of that is to Brown Hofstetter, the attorney. I can't remember all the names, but
Jeff Moore.
yes. 8,000 of that was coded there incorrectly. That was actually a retainer fee for our financial consultant, Mr. Peacock. And when I was going through this, I noticed that it was coded there, and so I've already addressed it with the accountants, and they're going to do a journal entry to correct that. So that's going to be $8,000 less once they do that journal entry. And that was just an error in the payment authorization, so we'll get that corrected. Down below the marketing line item, a little bit higher this month, $117,609, but that's just because it's two invoices in this 1 month, so it's for services rendered in October and November. So a little bit higher, but nothing out of the ordinary as far as the invoices go. Okay, we can flip to the next page. No changes in the reserves. And I will say, as I was looking closer at these and kind of putting a list together of the outstanding commitments that you guys had asked me to look at, there's probably, I think there's a missing chain in our communication, because I know that there have been projects that have been discussed and approved, but they're not on our spreadsheets. So I think maybe that's me. I need to do a better job of notating when those are approved so I can ask for the documentation. But, you know, it comes through a workflow, right? You guys approve it, then it goes to council, and then there's a resolution, then it's signed. So it takes a little while to get to my desk, but I know that there's some.
Do we need to ask our EDC group to maybe to compile a list of those?
So I have a list. I think I'm missing a couple, but I'll work with them to see which ones are missing from the list. I don't have on there the ICA development because that one was very recent, so it hasn't made its way to my desk yet. Liberty has not made its way to my desk yet, so it flows through. When I prepare these, I want to make sure I have all of the contracts in hand, right? So.
I would wait till it's approved by council, which I know
Mhm.
ICA is and other, but,
Mhm.
but I wouldn't put it on until council approves it.
Okay, yeah. No, that makes sense. I'll just figure out where I need to fit in the workflow. We're working through a lot of those details right now, just ironing out who gets what, when, where, so everyone's making a good effort on that. So once we figure all that out, we're gonna be in a good spot. Okay, so we'll keep trucking through the November report. You can flip to the investment summary here. Beginning balance, $78,934,211. Changes in fair market value and interest. Most of those are interest except for the municipal bonds. That's a change in fair market value. So ending balance is $79,272,444. And again, you can see the detailed investments on those two following pages for beginning and ending. And that would bring us to December. So in December, again, there's a due from general fund there, and that $2.2 million is the November and December sales tax combined. And like I said, it's been cleared at this current point in time. So total assets, $83,658,094. There is an accounts payable here, and there usually is not, so I looked into that to see what it was. Essentially, there was an invoice that was put in like right at the cusp of the end of the year, and the check wasn't written until January 4th. So there's just a very small timing issue there. But that was an invoice to the attorney, and it's been paid, so no payable in actuality. We can flip to the next page. Revenues for this month, $1,419,745. You'll see that expenditure there on the $2,060. That's the one I was talking about. That was to the attorney. And not a lot of other activity this month for expenditures. So ending fund balance as of this month, $83,656,034. Let's flip to the investment summary. Beginning balance, $79,272,444. Again, changes in fair market value and interest total $346,357 for an ending investment balance of $79,618,801.
But technically that we've got $2 million more than that, right? Because of the due from general fund, the property taxes from the prior months that haven't been paid in yet. Is that right?
So,
Because normally we would see a purchase amount here, like in the government pools, that's the sales tax money coming into our investment funds.
yes.
So would that be right? So 79,618.
Yeah.
But we also have an additional $2,284,000.
Correct.
That will show up when you make that journal entry, correct?
Yes, because we hadn't made the transfer from our tax pool to your tax pool.
Right.
So it's been done, so at this point, yes, there is now, that due from has been transferred to your tax pool.
I've got one more question for you, and I know I'm just missing it, I know it's here. But on the monthly expenses that we have, you know, like, you know, total expenses for the prior month was $39,200. And what, you know, we used to see, like Cindy would make a transfer from tax pool or whatever back to the general fund to cover those bills. Where do we see that at now? The expenses, like because you're paying advertising and all that jazz, but I'm not seeing the money come out of our funds.
So
Unless Mr. Beckmeyer's paying that for us out of the kindness of his heart.
Thanks, Mr. Beckmeyer.
Thank you, John.
So it is coming out of ODC's money. I see the expenses coming out of the proper accounts. So,
Is there some way you can reflect it here, just so we see how much is coming out of our investments each month? That was always kind of one of the things I always wanted Cindy to do, and of course, we had a long discussion over government accounting versus
yeah,
GAAP accounting, and
yeah.
I'd just like to see it.
Okay, I can make note of that, yes. I need to look into it a little bit more to see how she was connecting the two, but yes, I can do that.
Yeah, we never saw the in and the out.
Right.
And that's probably what those notes to financial statements were that she was doing for y'all.
Yes,
Yep.
It was.
yes.
Which if there was a way that we could just show it here, to where it's real simple, to where you'd see the expenses for the prior month, and then the next month you see the money come out of our investments, to offset that and reflect our balance, to me that would be, I didn't ever think it was rocket science. That would be great, thank you.
I can do that. I'll look into it. The next page I want to go over with y'all. Well, y'all have this. This was the first page that y'all had, and this is what you've been seeing every month, just the monthly sales tax. So that October, November, December, those three are, I'm sorry, the November, December, and January, those three are the ones that were behind. But they should be reflected now, and then I know the February transfer is forthcoming, and I'll see where they are on the March one too, so we can get y'all fully caught up. And next month, I'll either have the second quarter of the fiscal year entirely or just January and February. It'll depend on if I get all the statements in the mail for all of the accounts for March. Okay, so after that, you guys have this stapled paper here. So what I did was I went through all of the outstanding incentive projects that are on the books. If you flip to the second page, you'll see the detailed line items. The green figures, so I have years 1 through 5 or years 1 through, whatever was on the agreement. The green figures have been paid. And so when you look at the first page and you see these totals, these are the totals that have not yet been paid. Okay, so I broke it down, what I think that we're going to pay out over the next year, and I just based that on when the last payment was made for some of these grants. So you'll see the incentive projects, and then at the bottom, which is on the back, you'll see the outstanding facade and infrastructure projects. So Elizabeth got me that list, and I was able to put those on here. Thank you so much. And Tina got me the resolutions. Thank you. And so these will be paid out when they submit all the documentation. So we don't know if that's going to be within a year, within 2 years, but conservatively, I just mark them all as due within a year. So that total is also there included on the front page. So less than a year committed dollars is $11,988,150.85. And then you'll see years 2 through 9. Of course, we go out as far as 9 because Nacero was a 10-year project. So that's past year 5, that's the only project that is currently committed. And so total in years 2 through 9, you have committed $21,921,897.93. Now, probably add in another $10 million for the ICA infrastructure that I don't have on here. And I can't remember how much.
You do have it under an outstanding facade and infrastructure project. I don't think it should be there.
It's not,
That's the downtown program.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't think
That
that
should
4
be-
million should be there.
Yeah, it
Yes.
should be in regular.
It should be up here. The
Yeah.
only reason I put it there is because it's
It's an
titled an
grant,
infrastructure grant,
But
yes.
it's under our
That's correct.
normal,
grant.
so that will change.
So,
that'll change this first page. I was wondering why we had 4 million under.
Yes, you're correct. You're correct, Melanie. Thank you. So that one was 4 million over five.
Probably over 5 years.
5 years.
Our typical.
So let me see.
No, ICA is gonna be different than that, though.
Is it?
Both ICA and the,
It's funded as they complete the
yeah,
infrastructure.
it's gonna be
Oh,
paid out,
okay.
it's gonna be paid out over the next probably 18 months or so. As will the other one I don't see on here is the Parks Bell Industrial Park.
Mm-hmm.
Walkman, thank you.
So Ironman, Parks Bell, Walkman.
Well, Walkman and Parks Bell are the same thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
I just never can remember the name of it.
It's the same as Iron Man.
the code names. Okay. Do y'all see anything else? Liberty? We're missing Liberty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Liberty.
missing Liberty.
Okay. I'll track down these.
Oxy?
Yeah, what about the Oxy?
The 1.5.
1.5.
1.5.
Okay. And these are all agreements over the 5 years except for,
The two
ICA.
the two that won't be will be Walkman and ICA.
but those will be more short term probably. Okay.
Those I would suspect to be somewhere in the 18-24 month range.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head. Mr. Chairman, we're about to get in line. Okay, Kevin.
Oh, that agreement's not
1.5
signed.
has still not signed the agreement yet,
Ah,
so that's why it's not in there.
I
that
see.
would make sense.
So what is the, I mean, they're obviously building the thing, so I'm not sure I really care, but.
Is it the lawyers are going back and forth still?
It's their lawyers.
Yeah, with Jeff, yeah.
Not Jeff, it's on their end, they are all of a sudden, and I reach out to them once a week.
Yeah,
And
that's
ask
a-
about it,
Yeah.
tell them that, we need a signed contract.
Yeah.
I can see why it wouldn't be. I mean, it's a drop in the bucket
Yeah.
compared to that project.
Yeah,
And I'm sure it's the least of their worries.
It's kind of to the point of ridiculousness, to be honest with you. I mean, I've even thrown out some options out there in West Odessa as far as emergency services. Maybe they could utilize it for something like that. I got an email, Monday, and they're kicking around some other ideas on what they can use some money for.
Okay.
But their attorneys are hesitant to, and it's they're using outside counsel on this. And it's been indicated to me it's new.
So what you're saying is it's all about billable hours and therefore,
Yeah.
but this is gonna take a
$600
while.
bill.
Well, I mean, it takes what it takes.
Takes what it takes.
what it
Coming
takes.
from the attorney, it takes what it takes. I get it.
Tell them to help us give them money by signing the agreement.
Or just keep silent and maybe they'll continue to bill.
So I guess part of the process, Kaylee
Yes.
and others, is that we need to close this loop
Mm-hmm.
with our legal, and economic development department and your department to, whenever we're trying to, you're gonna try to improve the process
Yes.
and know
She's
if
already
something's
improved
not
the
on there,
process.
why is it not on there, or when
Mhm.
is it expected to be, and what's the holdup?
Mm-hmm.
So we can close that loop to
Yes.
understand.
And what
that we're matching up with what we've approved.
Yes, what I'm finding is that when Cindy was here, she was kind of the one who was closing that loop. And then Cindy left, and so
Okay.
now we're just working to reclose it once again.
Yeah, yeah.
But yes, so well, the reason I put this list together was so that y'all could kind of take a look at how much you wanted to invest in either municipal bonds or U.S. agencies. I have a list, which is that email that you have in your packet, of U.S. agencies available as of this morning. Like he mentions in his comments there, we can buy in $500,000 chunks to $1 million plus. So the municipal bonds that matured in February total 2.7 million. But of course, the balance in the tax pool as of December, so it's gonna be higher now, was $42,344,861, and then in the logic pool, $20,435,898. So if y'all wanted to do an extra 5 in municipal investments or agencies, I think you'd be fine. If you wanna go higher, that's up to y'all.
Well, does it make sense, I guess I'm trying to get my head wrapped around, that what we're trying to do, the discussion we had previously was, we got a lot of money sitting in a Frost money market account, right? And so, you know, what do we think that needs to be? I'm wondering, I guess I'll take a shot at it, that it ought to be maybe a minimum of $2 million, but maybe a little higher than that, understanding that monthly we're getting sales tax revenue comes through. Does it flow through that account, or?
The sales tax flows through the tax pool.
Okay, so we don't have to worry about that, but.
And keep in mind, I mean, our current yield on text pool is 5.06, and our current yield on text logic is 5.19. So if anything, I would shift the vast majority of that Frost money market account up to those two.
So the thing
Because those are both completely liquid, right?
Yes, they are liquid, but that will start coming down, the yield on those as the rates start coming down. So if you want to lock in a higher rate, then that's.
If you look at these though, like these Fannie Mae's, I mean, you got a maturity of September this year, October, November, December of this year. That's about all you have staying above 5%. The Fed's calling for maybe 5 rate cuts this year. They normally do those in 1/4 of a point increments, not guaranteed, so that's 1 1/4 difference.
So yeah, we can wait to move some monies from, the liquid to an investment, but when the Fed starts lowering rates, that's going to trigger a lot of people to start buying the bonds, and so the yields are going to go down because of that. So you can wait and get in right as it starts, or you can get ahead of the curve. It's up to
I
y'all.
would immediately move the vast majority of this from Frost
To
text pool and text logic.
But you don't want to invest in any municipal bonds or agencies.
Not necessarily. I mean, if you see something there that looks good, just keep in mind that balance. I mean, yes, this is cash. These rates will start coming down as the Fed starts cutting rates also.
Is there a minimum balance required to get the money market rate that we're getting from Frost?
I'm not sure on that. I could find out.
It's 100 or 250.
Yeah, I don't
Be all it is.
know what it would be.
Ideally,
When you
Really
said
and
move the
truly-
vast majority, I don't know, I'm not sure that's definitive enough.
Oh.
I would say, I mean, as long as we're moving liquid to liquid, I'd say move it all. We're losing 3 points right now by having any money in the Frost money market.
And I would want to know the real universe of what may come due over the next 2 years before we locked anything up too much.
Agreed.
Especially if there are 2 grants that are gonna pay out maybe over the next year or 2. I think it'd be useful to have that whole number. I mean, if
Yeah,
you
we
were
kinda
gonna
need a-
buy
we
anything,
kinda
I
need-
wouldn't go out further than these that are maturing in 24.
right.
Well, and I think one of the things that we've never been able to do, Kaylee, is we really need to have a rolling ladder developed so that we know that we have the liquid funds in
Yep.
the time frame we need, because we know that.
Yeah.
We know when that time frame is gonna be. And then that way we can look at our longevity and say, okay, hey, particularly as rates begin to ratchet down, we may have to go out a little further. But if we ladder it right, we should be able to do that very easily and have plenty of liquid
Yes.
to meet all of our obligations.
I agree, and that's not unique to just ODC. I think the city also has a need in that area. A lot of other cities our size or bigger have treasury people dedicated to those types of things, the investments, the
We get a lot
laddering.
of money.
Yeah, so I agree that we're probably leaving some money on the table, not having that strategy, but we're working to implement it. Myself and the controller, we're looking closely at it.
Well, the only thing we have left to mature this year is the First Bank and Trust in April, at
Mhm.
2,173,000. And then you've got the 2 municipal bonds in July
Yes.
and August that totals another 3 million. That's it.
Mhm.
As far as your answer to what we have in longevity maturing.
Sure, no, but my point was, if we buy any, I wouldn't buy any that matured later than this year, because we know.
Right, and we're also, we're in an inverted yield curve right now too. I mean, in most cases, reaching out longer, you're gonna get a lot
Get
lower
lower.
yields. Yes, ma'am. But it's a great point, Melanie, you're right.
So what I can do is
Can I
track.
have one more question
Yes, sir.
before you
Uh-huh.
decide what you wanna do? Is there any other benefit that we haven't talked about, or is there any benefit to having a money market account?
I mean, it's all liquid funds, all in the same. I don't know if our money market is required to have a matching. A lot of public funds have to have matching collateral. I don't know if the Frost portfolio has that. What I do know about the text pool and the logic is that they are dollar for dollar match to what we have in there. So it's very secure, which is why it's so popular for governments and school districts and things. So I can visit with the Frost team and see what benefits they have to pitch.
Well, and when I'm talking about benefit, is there a practical benefit from from processing transactions to having a money market account for
If we have to
us?
write a check, is it,
Oh, I see.
I think when we do that, we transfer money to the city's general fund and the city cuts
Yes.
the check. Because ODC, remember, doesn't have a checking account.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everything
We don't
y'all
pay any
pay
checks out of
comes
money.
out of our PNC account.
Yeah, I think the answer is no, but I
Yeah.
wanted to ask the question
Mhm.
because I don't know what the answer is.
I don't know why we have a money market that was established before my time, so
Well,
if you,
that happened when the yields were really low.
okay,
Yeah.
And it was one of
pay a
the,
better rate.
it was a better option for part of the funds that we had.
okay.
So I guess that's what I would wanna understand, is there any practical benefit to processing transactions and have the money market account there to do some of that? I don't think so.
I don't think so, no.
But I don't know.
Would you guys have a problem with us empowering Kaylee that says, if there's not a practical reason for us to keep this money in this Frost money market, to go ahead and move it, and let's
Yeah.
move it to,
can we take
to
that
TechLogic
action
and
today, or does it
Text
have
Pool.
to be on the agenda separately?
It would need to be on the agenda separately.
well, I mean, it's talking about financials. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
but
still
I
in
mean,
the same agenda
That's-
item.
It still needs to be laid, I mean.
An action item on the.
Yeah, it needs to be an action item. You're gonna have to bring her back. Chris,
You're killing me, Smalls.
Hey, open government laws.
Yes, ma'am. I get it. I get it.
So,
I mean, you could do a consensus for her to go out and look and see what she can find,
And maybe give us an
And then-
answer on,
give them bring back, get an answer, and y'all can vote on it. Give you some options.
30 days of interest and $6 million,
Mhm. Yeah, that's basically what you're doing, yeah. 3% difference in interest over 30 days on $6 million.
it's not that anybody wants to do it,
I know.
except we want to follow the law.
Oh, how dare us do that? No, yeah, you're right. You're right. I don't like it, but you're right. Okay.
if we get it resolved at the next meeting, I think that's better than not getting it resolved at all, so. We'll just make sure it gets on there, right, Dan?
That's right.
So that's all I have for y'all, unless you have any other questions. I have some homework items to look into for y'all. Oh, and follow up on the promotional expenditures. I did see that was being tracked. I think the latest that I saw, and of course our files are kind of hodgepodge all over the place, was for fiscal year 2022 to 2023. So I just need to make sure that it was done for this current fiscal year, and it would have been done by our previous controller who had a lot on his plate. So I just want to dig a little further and see if he did it for this year. But if not, then we can make sure it gets
What was
updated.
that, Kaylee?
The promotional expenditures, the
Oh, okay.
rollable,
The little
Gotcha.
The little
box
chart.
on our spreadsheet for
Yep.
approving the budget.
Determine
Yes.
what we can spend on that.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So that's why it's done during budget season, and I know he was swamped during budget season. So I'll just look to make sure that it was done, and if not, then we'll take it from there. Alrighty. Okay, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kaylee. Okay, just a reminder to everyone, this is a public hearing and a public meeting, therefore any member of the public can address the ODC board regarding any of its agenda items before or during the consideration of the item, so if you'd like to be recognized, please let me know. That brings us to item 6, discuss and take any necessary action regarding the appointment of 2 tax incentive committee members from the Odessa Development Corporation Board. One appointment shall be an ODC board member appointed by the ODC board, and 1 additional person at large to be appointed by the ODC board, each of whom shall have voting power. Currently, the ODC committee members appointed by the ODC are David Boutan and Melanie Holman, and those terms expire March 31st. And apparently, we're gonna need a resolution creating a tax incentive committee.
No, that was just for reference.
That's just for reference.
For reference.
Just for
Yeah,
Oh, you just added
we'll
that?
make sure that's prepared.
Well, you know, if you put it on here, I'm gonna read it, so,
Yeah.
okay.
If I'm allowed, I'll volunteer to be on that committee again. It's very rigorous and requires a lot of time,
Sucker.
but I'm willing to do it again.
Take one for the team.
What she said.
There you go.
Okay. I make a motion they do it again.
I have a motion from, Mr. Robinson that,
Second.
Ms. Holman and Mr. Boutan remain. I have a second from Mr. Russell. Any more discussion? Bearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign? Motion carries. Okay, so we have our, tax incentive committee members. So now's a good time to tell her that we've got 14 tax incentive committee, meetings already on the agenda. They're like every 2 weeks for the
Boy, that'd be
foreseeable
a
future.
shock. I don't know how you'd get everybody to those. That'd be a shock.
It's like herding cats. It's not gonna happen. Okay. Item number 7, consider a resolution approving the economic development agreement for both downtown infrastructure and facade grants at 413 East 8th Street with Advanced Wireless Communications LLC, Syed Ahmad owner. Ms. Prieto, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. So here we have a small space on 8th Street, like Chris said, at 413 East 8th Street. These are going to be, once they're completed, it would be rental spaces for more businesses. In total, we are asking for is $78,055.99 for the infrastructure grant and $25,000 for the facade.
So one of these is gonna be owner occupied and part of it's gonna be,
I don't think he's quite sure on that. It might be that they're both rented out because he's currently located at the mall right now. So I don't know if he's planning on, I think that was what he was thinking of, was being owner occupied on one side and rented on the other.
okay. And I would like us to look at this again, not necessarily in terms of this one, but as our whole program. I mean, I went back and read the facade and infrastructure grant stuff when it was originally formed, and I mean, that was originally set up to handle things like, getting them up to code on fire sprinklers and asbestos. I mean, this thing keeps evolving, and now we're replacing roofs, we're replacing electrical, we're basically, rebuilding buildings under the guise of the facade and infrastructure grant. And particularly when it's going to be rental space, investment space. I mean, I'm just having a hard time with that conceptually, understanding what the original intent was, which was to bring new businesses into the downtown area and to help, the people that were gonna occupy those buildings, get them up to speed. I mean, it just seems like this thing just kinda keeps, growing.
Yeah.
In its scope, and just my 2 cents. I'm just having a little bit of a philosophical hurdle with how this thing just kind of keeps expanding.
My thought on it, and Larry, let me know your thoughts, is that the idea was to rehabilitate downtown to a degree, and what we're getting out of it are buildings that are up to code so that businesses can occupy them. I don't have so much a problem with it so long as it is for something required by code. Unless it is business specific or specific to a particular business, so that even if one business leaves, we still have a space that is available and usable by a new business that can come in. They don't get another grant for coming in because it shouldn't be needed. The building is now up to code.
I think the intent and the purpose was to bring buildings up globally, the building, whatever the use, whether, and it was capacitated in there that they could be leased buildings and subject to lease, and so it's for the purpose of keeping the buildings from falling down in Odessa and getting them occupied, whether they're rented or not rented. And we did several others that were subject to being rented, like the pediatric clinic and a couple others, and some of the dining places downtown are under lease and were done the same way. A few months ago, I talked with the city about getting together and working on the code to codify infrastructure word for word, and we never could it takes three people, nobody, the person that does the code and then the one that understands it and then me to go in, and we never could get all three parties together. So I think I could further that. I could just push for a meeting and try and get that clarified and brought up in another meeting to get that up where we have a tight understanding of what it is as far as the word infrastructure goes. And different occupancy permits are issued for different things. So if you just say to get an occupancy permit, that doesn't cover everything, or it overcovers things. So we need to just get it to where the building is occupiable, and as you said, not for particularly a specific use. If they want to continue a continuum to get to that point, they'll need to pay for it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, ideally, I mean, if a business comes in and does not stay there, it's a space that is usable by another business. I mean, I think that
absolutely, and the building's not
creates an
falling
asset
down,
downtown.
and then the city be faced with demoing it at some time, and it does get back on the tax basis in a better light, especially if they put personal property into it.
Yeah, I mean, whether it's subject to lease or not, there's somebody paying property taxes based on the now
If they have
better
inventory
value
in
once
it.
it's
and-
up to code.
Right, that was one of my concerns, because a lot of cases we'll see, and having some conversations with the appraisal district, is their frustration is we give these grants, and improve the properties, and then the next day, the guys that got the grant are down arguing that, oh, this property's not worth near that. I realize ODC just gave them $200,000, to improve it, but, oh, this facility worth more than $50,000. And looking at this one, I don't really have that big of a concern, because it's currently on the tax rolls for like $95,000. We're gonna give them a $103,000 grant. It's gonna be so close. I mean, we'd hope that property value would come up, but they're already paying.
Well, and we've talked about including in our large grants, the language that they aren't allowed to dispute their property taxes during the
Right.
pendency of the grant.
The term of the grant.
And
Should
maybe
we do
we
that
need to
during
include
these?
that in these as well.
I would
I don't
be,
think
asking
that
the same
that's
thing.
I
an
would really
issue.
like to see that happen. I think that's a really good step, and also, so at the 78,000, they're putting in 78.
Oh, yeah,
and
they're
we're
gonna
putting
put in clearly a
Well,
whole
they're
lot
doing
more than that.
a total of
let's-
276,000.
276.
Let's think about this just a little bit, because what language do we wanna put in there? That they can't dispute their property taxes for a stated period of time? Because remember, these grants aren't over 5 years. These grants
Or paid
are
when
much
completed.
shorter term,
Right.
so we need to decide what we
That's a good
think
point.
the appropriate, I mean, I wouldn't think less than 3 years.
Yeah, I think maybe we need to come, I think as far as this one, fine, I think we do need to have that discussion. We need to have that discussion and thought about how long that should be, how should it be worded, things like that. The other thing that I would really like to see us do is to put some time limits in there. I mean, I keep
Yeah.
driving past the old Nurses Unlimited building, and they stop and they start and they stop and they start.
That
and they
one's
stop.
already expired.
And You know, we did the Jones Big and Tall, we've done the one on Texas, and I drive past there all the time, and I'm not seeing any activity, and I'm going, okay, I would have thought we would be kicked off by now.
I know the one on Texas, they've ordered the supplies. I've talked to them, and so
Okay,
they're
good.
moving forward. It's just by the time they order and get everything in.
Good.
So I know that one's in process, and when we started here at 2:00, Jim's Big and Tall actually called me, so I don't know
Okay,
where we're
good.
at on that, but I will
Yeah.
have more information for you after I get out of this meeting.
And I
can
guess
call them back.
the other kind of thing for us to think about is with DOI, I'm not sure what the status of it is right now, that it's kind of moving out of its own. I mean, you guys know what city council did to it. I'm not sure I understand it, but you know, how are we gonna handle the processing of these facade and infrastructure grants?
I'm not sure. I don't know where it's
So,
going.
yeah, I don't think anybody knows right now, but I think we better be thinking about that and how we're gonna handle that.
A little bit on that, DOI is still DOI, it's just not part of the city, so it'll be DOI's decision.
Be their board.
Yeah, their board is staying. I will not be going with DOI. I'm staying, stay with the city.
So we're gonna have to figure out that piece of the puzzle as well.
Well, in the meantime, I like Larry's recommendation with regard to pursuing
Getting it a little more-
definitions
I
associated
think we're
with
gonna have
infrastructure.
unheralded growth downtown with library, potentially courthouse, the post office, and I think there's gonna be a lot going on down there anyway, so I think some of these things somewhat take care of themselves outside of us. But I would like to continue that. I got busy, dropped the ball, never could get, it was around Christmas, January 1st, everybody on vacations, and just couldn't get 3 people together. But not one person in the city can answer my questions that I presented. So we've got to have a group, and I'll go ahead and set a meeting for that.
Yeah,
And
I would appreciate your work on it.
when I said it
personally. I'd like to
originally,
see
it was 4 weeks or 5 or 6 weeks, and then that got there and it changed, and so just lost track. But I'll go ahead and mark that and take care of it. And I'll get some ideas and bring them back.
That'd be
That'd be
fantastic.
great.
Okay, which brings us back to this item.
I would move for approval on this facade infrastructure
So just to
Well,
clarify,
Should we also ask, city legal to contact Jeff Moore about adding the property tax dispute language to this, to our form for the downtown
I think that's a great idea.
grants? Not for the current one, but
So not for this one.
Futures,
This
not
one,
for
we
this
can move
one.
forward with this one. Okay.
I think that's a great idea. In talking, you know, the way we word those ordinances and the grants themselves, I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, we talked about that a month.
So just to clarify, I have a motion to approve $78,055.99 for infrastructure and $25,000 in facade for a total of $103,055.99. Any second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Robinson. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Elizabeth. Okay. Item 8, ODC Committee and Officer Reports. So partnership did not meet, but we do have a meeting scheduled for Thursday, April the 4th. For those. Tax incentive, of course, has 16 scheduled over the next two months. So we'll, if that happens, we'll get a
we'll
report
put extra time on the next agenda for that report.
for that report. Okay, I'll be sure and make note of that. Advertising, I think you guys met yesterday, but I think Christie covered that
Yeah,
pretty
pretty
well.
much covered it.
Excellent. And then DOI Grants Design Review Board, other than
Are there-
what we just talked about?
Are there-
Yes, we
are there-
reviewed this one last week. so-
Are there any more in the hopper right now?
Yes, we've made contact with, it's, I can't even think of the name of the company, it's on Fifth Street, for, delivery babies.
Birthing.
Yeah,
the
the birthing center.
center.
Thank you very much. I have another one, that potential restaurant at the old, I think it's the Truist building. That's a 3-story building. They're wanting a restaurant at that one. And there was,
A convalescent
Then
center, right?
there's one for a nursing, we have two for medical. One, what the request was really for the equipment, not necessarily the infrastructure. When I emailed them back, they never responded back to that one. And then there is one for a medical office, and that one is also with the nursing. So there's a potential of about 5 more out there. They just haven't quite turned in the paperwork for it. And I think that was the question also, and that was about the nursing. It wasn't a nursing home.
It was
It's,
housing.
It's that convalescent, right, where
Yeah,
somebody can convalesce from surgery?
Yes.
post-surgery
Yeah.
convalescent.
So there's about
private-
5 that they're
private
out there, and they're,
enterprise.
from what I understand, they're gathering their estimates and getting ready to submit those requests.
Excellent. Thank you. And Compliance Committee did meet yesterday. Compliance Committee did make a motion to bring forth a recommendation for a company. We'll probably see that at next month's meeting. And then they did discuss another project that we'll probably be seeing in the near future as well. I would anticipate us having another Compliance Committee meeting probably in the near future, so. Item 9, so the board may recess into executive session in compliance with section 551.001 of the Texas Government Code. However, I don't think we have anything today unless you guys know of some reason we need to go into executive. All right. Item 10 to be reconvened, since we don't have to do that, that's good. Now, again, this is an open meeting, and at any point in time, citizens can also comment on non-agenda items. And do I have any citizens like to comment on non-agenda items today? You know, like tell Melanie how pretty she looks today. That's always a good non-agenda item. Hearing none. Item number 12, upcoming dates for future ODC board meetings. Tentatively, we have Thursday, April the 12th at 2 p.m. right here in this very place. Does that work
April
for
the
everyone?
11th?
April the 11th.
Did I say April?
You
What did I say?
said 12th.
Did I say the 12th? I'm reading the 11th. Good grief, I guess I gotta get some new readers. Thank you for keeping me straight. I have a problem with that line item, don't I, David? I either want to mess it up or totally eliminate it. So does everybody okay with the 11th at 2?
I believe so.
I think I am too. Better look before I jump out there. Yep, I'm good. Okay. Anything else before ODC? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion from Ms.
Second.
Holman, second from Mr. Harry. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned. Thank you.